Welcome to She Sells Radio. I have one of my favorite human beings on the planet here for an interview today. And in fact, as of today, she is the only guest who has been on the show 3 times. So you very well may already be familiar with my guest. If not, we'll direct you back to the other earlier episodes as well. But Rita Hausken is, like I said, one of my favorite humans on the planet. She's an original member of our She Sells community. She's one of the OGs of our 10K and 50K clubs. And she's doing really, really big work in the world. She's the founder and CEO of Shestainability. She's an executive coach, a trusted advisor to women leaders who are changing the world. I'm going to keep the intro relatively brief here because you can go back to some of the earlier episodes to hear more, but we are going to have such an amazing conversation today. Rita, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Elise. I was just thinking, it's a year ago I was on, and I'm thinking about and wonder how much has changed in 1 year that I would never have thought would be possible, ever.
Oh my gosh. Well, and that's really where I'd love to start with you because you've had so much happening in your world since I've known you. Before then too, of course, and then even just over the past year since we had you on the show. And I think today I want to talk with you a lot about legacy. I know that's a lot of your work, and that concept also drives a lot of what you do in your own life. So could you share for our listeners just some of what's been happening in your world over the past year since we had you on the show, and maybe some backstory context too for someone who hasn't heard you on the earlier episodes, just to share more about your son Benjamin and how he's really inspired your passion for the work that you do now in the space of solving some of the world's biggest problems and empowering other leaders who do that as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be delighted to. The most important person ever in my life has and is Benjamin. Just briefly, he was diagnosed with something called MPS1 or Hurley's syndrome when he was 2 years old, and we were told that he would die when he was 7. And I got the choice then to either surrender to what the doctor said and believe their limiting beliefs, or to say, I have been given an opportunity to make a difference in this world through his diagnosis. And I chose the latter. I chose to say, as long as there's life, there's hope. I chose to look for opportunities. I chose to connect internationally with other families. I chose to eliminate anything that would make me feel in doubt of myself. There was a period of time where I actually turned my back to the Norwegian system, because in Norway, we have this tendency of thinking that everything, if it's there, it's going to come to us, instead of maybe also showing up and doing some of the work ourselves. So I turned my back to the Norwegian system, and I connected more with the British, the Americans, and other communities also in Australia. And I got to work with families that was like, yes, our children is suffering from this. And yes, what can we do? And I created a mission for myself. And that was that Benjamin might die young, but he's going to have a really happy life. So my focus was happiness. And through that happiness focus, I got in contact with experts around the world. And we managed actually to find an enzyme replacement therapy. We were fighting for that medicine. We almost did lose him when he was 7. We managed to get him back again. And then when he was 9.5, the medicine was FDA approved, EU approved. And after some fight with the government, managed to get it to Benjamin. And through that work, a lot of children's lives have been saved, not just from his disorder, but the mindset that doctors needed. I mean, what I helped them see was that I remember one doctor said, "Oh, you reminded me that I'm here to save lives. I'm not here to monitor budgets." So he said from there on, he said, I rather ask for forgiveness than permission. So he just put children on the various treatments without asking first for permission. So that saved lives in a lot of disorders that was. And from there on, Benjamin lived until he was 27 and a half.
Mm.
He helped me. So he couldn't speak. He lost his ability to speak when he was 9 and a half. And he was like a 2-year-old. So even though he progressed to over a period of time, he then went back because his brain was kind of destroyed. But he learned me the power of listening for what is not being said, sensing for the vibration of another human being, of happiness, understanding the language of the unspoken. So he learned me this beautiful ability to listen to people on a very deep level. And when he passed on the 24th of March last year, and so in 2022, he left because we realized it was time. We came to this conclusion that this is the time. We're not going to help keeping him alive because he's no longer happy. So we had to make a very conscious choice. Legacy for me is number one priority. How do you create a legacy? And I realized that every single day we receive an opportunity to create the legacy. Very often I ask my clients, if you think about it, if death should come today, what is your legacy right now? And interestingly enough, there are far more legacies created than we think. It's just that we forget. We don't think about it. We don't call it, oh, I have a legacy. So for me, what Benjamin taught me is the importance of checking in with yourself every single day. What have I done so far in my life that has impacted the world, the planet, other human being, whatever it is, in one way or the other? What am I proud of? That is a legacy. We don't need to make it so grand and so huge and so like, oh, you're going to whatever, solve a disease. No, it is in every single day. And he taught me that because I thought every single day for 27 years that this might be the last day of his life. This might be the last day that I can include other people into his life. And that is something that I've carried with me all the time. And that's why legacy work is so important for me.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. You know, I was speaking with somebody yesterday about, I don't know if you've seen the Wayne Dyer movie, The Shift. Are you familiar with?
Oh, yes.
So he talks about the shift, right, from ambition to meaning in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious from your perspective. So when you're working with clients and your passion and what you're doing now is really about, if I'm understanding correctly, I know it's broader than this too, but it is around creating this legacy and women who are out to really solve some of the biggest problems in the world. What do you see in terms of when that shift happens in someone's life, when we make that shift from that maybe earlier ambition, right? Where it's about what kind of paycheck can I bring home? What kind of revenue numbers can I hit? What kind of awards following can I build to, which there's a time and a place, I think, in many of our journeys for that. But there's a much deeper meaning that's available. And I'm curious because I don't think everyone gets there in this lifetime, at least. I'd be curious your perspective on that. But when does that happen? Is it usually through some sort of a traumatic event, or is it more just like a waking up one day? Like, when do you see that happening in women's lives, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so very often, if I'm just thinking about the clients that come my way, they seem to have the same patterns. They come to me through referrals, And they share that I have this restlessness inside of me. I can't shake it off. I don't know what it is. I feel I should be grateful for where I am, and I'm in great positions, but there is something wrong, and I'm trying to figure it out. So they come thinking they have a problem that they need to somehow fix. And when I'm starting to speak with them, and I'm starting to ask them more about what is this restlessness, and what do you believe in, what do you take a stand for, what is really important for you, it very quickly comes to something that is of profound value for them. That, again, very often it's climate change, it is clean energy, it is basic human needs. It's really about something that there must be something we can do. There is, I'm just having this thing, but what they don't see is that is connected to the restlessness that they're feeling. What they're doing is they're judging the restlessness as something negative. And every time I'm saying, but you have to understand that you have this moving, energy is in motion, and that feels like in a particular way, and you judge it, label it as restless. And I'm saying that you're about to burst open, you're about to crack open, because your mission and that big vision is ready to hit the ground running. That is why you come to me. That is what I'm here to serve you with, is to help you release that. Wow. And every time it's like, no, really? Like, I thought I had a problem. And I said, no, you don't have a problem. You have a gift, but you have wrapped it so tight into conformity, into whatever, speaking in a certain way, or not speaking up at all about it because you feel you can't. But now this diamond is in a clay of mud. So we're just going to crack this thing open, and really that light of that diamond, that atom, that it's so powerful that we just need to release this thing. That is usually what happens. And the interesting thing is how much it can scare them in the beginning, because they realize how powerful they are. And that's scary. And I also share this with them. I'm here to really remind you of how powerful you really are. And the reason why I think I can crack it so fast is that if I go back again to Benjamin, I mean, I have been in the operating room or surgery room with him so many times where we were faced with challenges during surgery. And I was always a part of surgery. I was always there. It's just been a part of, weirdly, what I've been doing. And in crisis situations, I could have an idea, and I would speak this idea into the team. And everyone that was dealing with Benjamin, they were real experts. They were real experts. So you would think that they know it all. But because I was fighting constantly for my son, I had nothing holding me back from bringing my idea into the room. And so often it was like, my goodness, why didn't we think about that? That's a great idea. Wow. And what I then saw when I started my own business back in 2017, I said, I believe that women possess a unique form for creativity. The world needs access to that creativity to solve some of the greatest problems we have. We just need women to get out of their own way, because we need their brain. At the moment, 50% of the population who probably sits with the solution to what we're challenged with are not cracked open yet. We need to make that happen. So when I see a woman in front of me and I feel this, because they are the ones coming my way, whether they are clothes designers or whether they're working in the energy industry, I always see that somewhere down there, they're working on the same thing, a big shift, a big impact through whatever it is. That's what happens when I get to work with them. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So from day one, we start working on the legacy. And this is what I do. It's like, if we stop right now, what legacy have you already created? And this is what they don't see, because, you know, when we're operating from a zone of genius, or we have this expression, the sky is to the bird and the fish is to the water, humans are to themselves, we don't see our own brilliance because we're in it all the time. The same goes for these women. And I say, I want to map you out. What have you done that is unique? And they're like first shy to really go there. And we go in there and we find one gem after the other, and you can feel this energy of being proud and, wow, I've forgotten this. And I say, yeah, we need to remind you, because if you not being conscious about it has taken you here, can you imagine what you can do with consciousness and awareness around it? So what took you here is not going to take you there, because now everything has changed. And I always say that even if this is the only conversation you and I have, you're going to go out from here and your life is never going to be the same. It can't, because you cannot unsee something you have seen.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You use this phrase, I'm taking some notes while you talk, about when the restlessness comes, right? And that gift is inside, that stirring is inside, but it's been wrapped so tight in conformity.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, why do you think we are so afraid of our own power? And I want to give a little context for the question, some of what I know of you before you answer it. I remember, I think I'm remembering this correctly. You can tell me if I'm not, but I remember this was shortly after Benjamin had passed, and you said something to me along the lines of, nothing scares me anymore. It's like, I've been through the hardest thing someone could be through. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. And there was obviously, in the middle of the most unimaginable grief, also this emanation of a deeper level of power that was coming through you, that I felt from you in that moment. And my personal take is, we all have that within us, right? And yet, to your point, it's wrapped in conformity and we forget it, or we're really deep down scared of it. And I think many of us never crack that open because we never have a scenario that forces us to, right? But that fear that we feel of our own power deep down, why is that there? And what does it look like to release it?
Yeah, I remember that conversation. I remember really well the power that it was quite mind-blowing. Because it kind of happened when Benjamin passed. And I think there was both this feeling of releasing him from his pain.
Yeah.
That meant that I surrendered to the state of no longer trying to keep control over something. And we know how much keep trying to control things makes our life small. When we control things, we play in a very small field. And sometimes we're supposed to kind of do that. I mean, we're doing from our best ability. And when I'm thinking about Benjamin, it was in that form of control that I've been taking was really important. And when he passed, my physical reaction was this surrendering to something. And then in the months after that, you're living in, I experienced this, I was living in this vacuum of extreme grief and at the same time an extreme expansion, because there was nothing to control for me anymore. So I could expand, and I was constantly compartmentalizing. I went into grief and spent time, and then I stepped out of grief and just felt in this, it's almost like numbness, but you're expanding. And in that period, I asked myself, what is really possible for me now? Because I didn't care about anything. I didn't care what anyone would say. Even I remember actually when we had the cremation, in our family, in the Norwegian society, we don't really show and use voices and all these things. And I remember how I, in my head, said, Rita, you need to keep control of yourself. And then another voice said, what are you doing? And I remember I decided to scream out loud in this building. I shouted, I fell to the ground, and my family was shocked of this. And I remember a side of me was saying, oh, this is too much, Rita. Like constantly like judging. You can't even grieve in your own way. Even that we need to control. And I was like, I am not having that. I'm letting go of control. And therefore, I'm stepping into my power, because what happened was that I released a lot of things that have been holding me back. And later on, I was asking myself, why are we so afraid of our own power? And I think for women, and again, if I'm talking about myself, is that our power is so different to what the power of what we see around the world, that we will be looked upon as weird and like, who are you? And criticized, and being brought up in like people pleasing is a good thing, saying please is a good thing, and all these things, is everything is just against us. So I think that, to your question about why are we so scared of power and being powerful, I think it's because, first of all, we don't know how powerful we are, because we never give us the grace of even testing waters of that. And when we have felt it, we can see how expansive that power is, and how people pull off, they remove themselves, they go away. So with power, in my experience, and I'm talking about the intention of power, right? That can be scary, because you can be scared of being alone. But now you're going to go on this journey on your own. Nobody's going to like you anymore. That is how I feel and I see when I experience the power. And I think when I felt real power, it's been because I've released whatever baggage I'm carrying with me. That is power for me. It's not necessarily other people that have given me something, or it's like I've released something that is no longer holding me back. I'm expansive. I say what I feel. I do what I feel. And I see the results of that. And now 50% of the people around you are dropping off because they don't like the new version of Rita.
Well, it's the crabs in a bucket
Exactly.
syndrome, right? Where the crab tries to escape and the other ones pull it down. This makes so much sense. You said something earlier I want to go back to that I'm intrigued by. You said, for women, our power is so different from what we see modeled. I'd love for you to expand on that. Are you referencing being able to be in the operating room and just know what needs to happen? Is it the knowingness? Is it the intuition? Is it something else? Like, speak more to that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, for sure. So what I've experienced through myself and through women who has broken through to really become what we say, using their power to have a breakthrough. It is always when they do the opposite. It's always when they ricochet. It's always when they say, there is another way of doing this. There is another way of looking at this. And they are checking in with themselves, and just, this is like, I don't know how to explain it, but you come to this level where there is no other way. This is a must. It might not make any sense to anyone around you, but this is it. This is it. And I've seen this with clients who have I remember one client, she came to me and she was sharing how she was working on a project and she was the only woman, and all the guys were so focused on what's the next step, what's the next step. And this woman, she was a visionary. And she shared her vision, basically saying, look at the end result of the project, like paint done. This is what it looks like when it's done. And this is what this project is going to deliver as a solution to XYZ. And they criticized her for being too out there, too future focused, too whatever. So she came to me and she said, how do I communicate with them? And I said to her, there comes a time where you have to stop communicating. Either find a new group, step outside, to create your own thing. But it's time for you to stop holding a power back because you're trying to accommodate their rigid thinking and limiting thinking. And you think there's something wrong with you. But the fact is that you have been given an opportunity. You've been given kind of a vision of what this is going to look like. This is your gift. So she said, okay, I'm going to try this out with this existing team. So she went back and she just said, this is how it is. This is exactly how we're going to do it. No matter what, we're going to figure this one out. You trust me on this. And they said, okay. What they needed was a kind of affirmative, clear answer that this is the direction, because she hadn't been clear enough on that. It was a mega success.
Wow.
Mega success. So that is when you're asking the question of women stepping into the power. When we are willing to let go of the busy monkey mind that is constantly telling us that everyone else knows more than us, that when we're letting go of fear of not being liked, and we're stepping into what is really a must for you, what is meaning of your life, what legacy do you want to leave behind, no matter what, it's like you get access to something so powerful. And now magic starts to happen. But it's scary. It is scary to go there because people are scared of being thrown out. And I say, then it's a blessing. If you're kicked out, it's a blessing.
I want you to speak more to that, because this is, oh my gosh, this literally was coming up yesterday on a coaching call. I was leading a call for the 10K club, and there are women in there right now who are launching businesses and brands and so caught up in perfectionism. I can't make a mistake, right? I can't, what if I get it wrong? What if I make a mistake? And so there's this shrinking, right? And I'm trying to see where I wrote it. Oh, you said this is so good, Rita. This is so good. I'm gonna like pull this out, make this a tweet. People need to write it down, put it on their wall. By trying to control things, we keep our life small. Like, holy crap, mic drop. So you see, like I see this, and I've seen this in my own life too, right? I don't know if anyone's immune to this, but there's so much truth in what you said. And to your point of that core fear is, well, if I really step into my power, I'm going to be alone. How do we get past that? Do we just go into the aloneness? Like I'll maybe speak a little bit of my own experience, because I've been through this in my own way. But I want you to speak to it first. Like, how do we get past that core fear of being alone?
I think the first thing is to acknowledge it, that this is what I'm scared of. Because when you know what you're scared of, then something can be done. And a client of mine, she said that to me. She said, like, I don't like to use the word genius often, but this is like, she's a pure genius, right? And she said that the way I'm doing things is isolating me, because the people that I'm having in my circle, they don't understand where I'm coming from. And I am catching myself trying to learn other people's language and suppress my own language because I don't want to be left alone. But I asked her, what do you truly want? What is really important to you? And then she started to talk about circular economy. She started to talk about the sustainability, and she started to shine. And I said, there's just one way to do this. You create your own tribe. You go out there and you create the community that you need. You call in those you admire the most. Go out, connect with them, because you know that the biggest fear you have is to be alone. Well, then you've given a gift. You're given a gift. You know that. So what is that problem designed to solve? That problem you have, being so scared of being alone, that is designed so that you can go and create something massive, important in your life. And not only in your life, can you imagine what the effect of such a community with you and like-minded and above, you're getting together? And that's what she did.
My gosh. Looking it straight in the eye, being willing to face it, being willing to acknowledge it, no longer afraid of it. Yeah.
No longer afraid of it. And I think, so this is, when you think about Joseph Campbell's, when you talk about the cave you fear holds your treasure, right? And that fear is so holding us so hard. I mean, I have had that so much, and I'm constantly checking in on my cave. What is my cave, and what is the fear associated to this cave? And this is where we often find ourselves trying to control things, because we think by controlling, we know what's going on. But there are no such thing as control of anything. We can be in charge of our lives, but we can't control anything, right? So what I'm saying is that when we see that our cave is holding a fear of being alone, that means that facing being alone will open the treasure for you. So that's what I would say. In this case, is like really go in and identify what are you most scared of, neutralize it, ask for help. That's the other thing. You don't have to do this alone. I mean, that's why you have 10K clubs and 50K clubs and, my communities and everything, is that we do this so much better when we are together. We can go fast alone, but if you want to go further, you go with others. And that's why it's important to find or create.
Yes.
And to call in your people. And be brave and say this, I'm on this mission, and I'm on this mission to surround myself with people who are working with their legacies. They're interested in solving some of these problems. I love to hang out with these people. People love that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When you're brave enough to put yourself out there like that. And that's actually how you and I reconnected for this interview. I saw a LinkedIn post you had done where you were sharing that you were, excuse me, just pushing past your comfort zone. I think asking for more support and help. And I was like, I love that, because how many of us would love to be receiving more support and help, yet would feel like we have to, I've got it all together. I don't need help. I don't need support. It's the lone wolf syndrome. I want to come back to something you said a few minutes ago, which you were sharing with me in the pre-chat as a question that's really framed this year. This question of, what is this problem designed to solve? Can you speak a little bit more to that? I'd never heard anyone say it that way before. I know you're doing a lot of this work with your clients too, and in your own life. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So this question has in a different form been with me ever since Benjamin received his diagnosis. We might use another form, and that is, why is this happening for me? That is a short version, but this is going deeper. What is this particular problem that is in front of me designed to solve? If we think that what is in front of us is never too big for us to really deal with, to solve, But it's there to, if we pull that plug, that little thing, now we're going to open up the flow for something that is so much bigger. So for me this year, I've been leaning in towards this question all the time. I lean into it every single day. Even just before this call, I was leaning into this question because I had the problem with my flight.
Yeah.
But so this year, I've been sick a lot. I mean, physically sick. I've been down with back pains, with real scare of like a brain stroke. I had pneumonia. So if you imagine, so I've been off this year. I've probably been off work about 4 months, complete off. And I started to ask myself, what is this problem, physical problem, really designed to solve? And the interesting thing is that when you ask the question, you get to be curious instead of blaming whatever problem. I'm thinking, ooh, this is really interesting. Something is cooking. What's going on? In this case, for a very long time, I have been writing about how I want to go to India, how I want to experience being in an Ayurveda clinic or resort. But I've never really done it because I never had the reason to kind of do it. You know, how stupid is that? So what the problem I constantly had was designed to solve something in one way bigger, a desire. It was designed to go in there to solve this idea that I had that maybe I will never be able to do it, to actually say, no, here you go. Because now you've been challenged so much with your body that it became a must. No, this one is a must. I'm going to go there. Right? Yeah. So, but every day I'm using these questions all the time. Like it is designed to solve something. It's designed for something. So, so it's a question that I check in, every day. And I ask my clients this all the time. And the reason I also want to share why I'm saying that is because we tend to be too caught up in the problems. And when we're caught up in the smaller problems, we try to control the problem. And as I said before, when you're trying to control something, you're holding yourself back. And the minute we're getting curious about what big stuff is this designed to solve or create or bring forth, or now it's like, I don't focus on the how anymore. I focus on what is that? Now I get curious and everything changes.
Oh, wow. Gosh, it's so interesting to think about it that way, that whatever that small problem is that may feel big to us, maybe it's something that's nagged at us our whole life, but that thing we're trying to control, it's almost surface level, right? It's like there's something so much greater. What I'm hearing from you is there's something so much greater, like a solution that's available to things far bigger than we're even thinking about when we ask a better question and when we look at it through this lens. So this is so good. I want to ask, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
And I was also thinking about this willingness to come from the big, hairy, audacious goal instead of coming from what is, because what is holding us back is the most masculine of everything. And that is, how do we do something? The minute we focus on how and we figure out how, we go into execution mode. But when we are putting the how word, I usually say this to all my clients, you are not allowed to say how in our conversation, because I need to stretch your thinking. You're limiting yourself because you're always saying, but how am I going to do that? I don't care about the how. Let's leave the how away. And let's now look at it. And we're looking at these big, audacious, hairy goals. Like I can share with you when I'm going to Dubai now for COP28 on the climate conference. I'm going there with another colleague of mine who is in 4PC. And his big, audacious goal is to be one of the people on this planet that wins the Nobel Prize for solving the climate crisis.
Wow.
He has no idea of how to do that, but he's coming from that thinking. What would I need to be? Who am I being if I am this person who have been part of solving this? How curious do I have to be? What questions do I ask? How do I turn the table? That's why when I'm asking the question, what is this problem designed to solve? And then you focus on, wow, maybe there's something much bigger over here that you don't know how. And because you don't know how, you can take tiny baby steps because you just trust the process that, but I'm on the right path. I don't need to know how.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so much freedom that comes from releasing the how. And I think that's the only way we could actually do big work in the world as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to ask you, I'm mindful of time here. This is so, I want to have you on like every week. We'll but I want to ask you one more question before you share where everyone can connect with you. So I am curious with the perspective shift that you've had over the past few years since Benjamin's passing. Not quite a few years now. I want to know what matters to you now. You shared when we were chatting before the interview, too, we were talking a bit on Marco Polo. You said, I've been given this gift of 80% of my time back. And I'm very conscious of what I do with that time to honor his legacy. And you're saying no to things that maybe before you would have said yes to. So I'm really curious from this perspective now, what do you see as actually mattering in life?
Yeah. So what really matters to me is to see great ideas coming out of women. That is really important to me. So what I do is to really work with women and draw out that mission, ignite them again. Is really important to me to get access to the brilliant minds of women. That lit my fire. When I can work with a woman that once had a box filled with matches that was ready to be lit any moment in time, and they used to do it, but now they're a bit like damp and they're a bit like not so ready to spark. I'm here to dry that thing up and to get them to ignite it again. That possible dream. And now you're presenting your set and your fundraising and money is coming and things are happening. That is so meaningful to me. And as you can imagine, not everyone that comes my way is that. And what I also can say is that learning to say no to those who are not there. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've gone through this year has also been willingness to say no. I've said no to a multiple six-figure contract with an organization that wanted me to train their new executive leadership team. But I realized that the CEO thought that he was excluded from whatever it was. And I realized I didn't have a powerful vision, and therefore they were not on the mission. And I said no, which was quite shocking for the organization as well. And for me, sometimes I was thinking, what did I do? But it was the right thing to do. Yeah. So working with that's really meaningful to me. And see the results of my work. Like, you have supported also with Kushal in India. I'm getting to go there now to meet a child that you have literally saved his life because you said yes to an invitation to connect on LinkedIn because somebody asked for help. I didn't understand that for so long, I was asking for an opportunity to make a big impact, a big legacy move from my side. How these things show up, we never know. For me, it showed up on a connection request on LinkedIn that I was about to say no to because I had some judgments, and I said, I'm going to do it anyway. And that was me receiving a gift of what I had been asking for a long time. But I had to do something uncomfortable first, to say yes to something that I wasn't certain about. And then they got the gift of saving their son. I got the gift of seeing that what I do really matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The things that have been holding us greater level of connection in our lives with everyone and everything that truly matters. So wow. I'm grateful and I'm blown away. And I really appreciate you and what you shared tonight.
Likewise.
Just so powerful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Rita, please tell everyone where they can connect, where they can learn more about you, your work.
So very easy. Just connect with me on LinkedIn under Rita Hausken. I have websites, I have all these things, but that is where I stay closest to the people in the world that is doing their thing. So connect with me there. Send me a DM. I love that. Like I just shared, one connection can really change the ball game. So don't be scared of connecting and say, listen to this podcast, and that will mean a lot to me. Really a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. So much love for you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Amazing. All right. Wow. How do we even end this? This was this was one of those episodes that I know I will go back and listen to again and again. And I really encourage you as my listener to come back to this when you need a recentering, a refocusing on what really matters, and a mirror into what's possible in life when we release the natter and the things that don't really matter and actually are willing to step into our own zone of genius and focus on legacy and being in our own power. So we'll link all of Rita's information in the show notes. Thank you, as always, for being a listener of She Sells Radio. I'll see you on our next episode. Bye for now.